I'm Teresa Moore, and today I have Chef Peters in my kitchen here in Honolulu teaching me how to make his gourmet wines. So we're going to be making wine from home that you'll be able to do also from your kitchen. Today we're going to be making what? Pineapple?
Pineapple.
And a red pomegranate for my women's seltzer. And I'm just going to have Chef Peters give me a little history about winemaking because I know nothing. I know nothing about winemaking.
Well, what is wine? Let's start off with this.
What is wine?
What is wine? Well, let's start off with this beautiful angel. He's most of the time is presented as an angel Bacchus, yeah, the old Roman god of wine.
Oh.
Right? So what he has done us a great favor of adding yeast to grape juice. And the yeast naturally ferments the grape juice into alcohol. And that's how we make wine. It's all as simple as that.
Simple process.
Pineapple or the grapes, you just squeeze them and the natural nature takes over. And yeast is added to it and it starts to ferment. That's how you make wine. And the yeast in every province of France is different. You have the Burgundy yeast and you have the Champagne yeast.
Okay.
And you have the yeast in the Rhine Valley. Each one gives a different flavor to the wine. And here in Hawaii, we're importing the yeast from Champagne.
From Champagne. But you told me, before you start to tell, you told me this great little true story about the war and the settlement of calling all sparkling wines Champagne versus. So tell me that little story.
So what happened is the contract of Versailles after the First World War. French made sure that is entered into the contract. Nobody is permitted to call sparkling wine Champagne unless it comes out of French province of Champagne.
So unless the yeast.
Now in France, in the Champagne yeast is particular from this area. That's one we're using. So it gives a different flavor to the wine. And the Champagne, the basic thing in this goes to two fermentation process. And one is the cuvée, as they call it in French, is the ordinary fermentation. And the alcohol should not exceed 10%. Now the second time, once this fermentation, decanting and clearing of the wine has been completed, you add a little bit of yeast and sugar again and then seal the bottle. And the fermentation, when it takes place converting the sugar into alcohol, it releases gas. So in the first fermentation, you make sure the gas escape. That's why we got the little airlock here. You see this little thing here. So while it's fermenting, the air goes out, goes in this little container, and we're going to fill it up with water, and that's why we call it water lock. Now the second fermentation, we want to keep the air, the gas in the bottle, and that gives you the sparkling wine.
Okay, so what I learned in this last 2 weeks that we've spent time together, what I learned is all wine that is sparkling, which here in the United States we call champagne, but really it's not champagne unless it was either produced in the region of Champagne in France, or it comes from the yeast that is cultivated in Champagne.
No. That would be sidetracking the French export, don't forget. They want to export the champagne bottle at $120 a bottle. Now, if everybody can buy the yeast and make his own champagne, they lose the monopoly.
So although here in the United States we didn't sign that contract.
Oh, you did, but
we aren't paying attention to it.
Right.
So we call our champagnes here champagne, but in reality it's a sparkling wine. And the difference between wine and sparkling wine is basically all wines can be converted to a sparkling wine, but it's a two-step process. First we take your fruit and you add a yeast to it, and the sugars in the fruit mix, the yeast converts to alcohol. And then after that yeast has been eliminated, basically you described how the yeast kills itself.
Yes.
Give me that little story.
What happened is this. Alcohol is produced by converting the sugar into alcohol with the help of yeast. Basically, yeast, what is yeast? Yeast is a living thing. Like when you bake a cake, you have the yeast in the dough and the dough lifting up because it ferments the sugar in, or the carbon of the flour into gas, and that's a living, the lift up the bread, the cake. And the same goes in the liquid, like in the grape juice. You have the yeast converting the sugar into alcohol. Now, if the alcohol contents exceed 14% in general, then the alcohol contents will kill the yeast, and the fermentation stops.
Okay.
I'm from Hawaii. I mean, I know I'm not from Hawaii, but I live in Hawaii for 30 years.
30 years.
And I consider myself Hawaiian. Everything Hawaii is beautiful. So why not exporting the beauty of Hawaii, the pineapple juice, to everybody on the planet Earth, and for you convert the pineapple wine, the pineapple powder into a pineapple wine.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
The first, in our kit, you're gonna receive this water log, this bag of, in this case, is pomegranate and sugar already blended proper, and this stopper here. This is those main ingredients. So what the only thing we have to do in this case is you just take the mix sugar, and this gives you a sugar contents of 22%. So we're going to give you a very nice sweet wine. You only have to add it to water, right? And then you have to get it a mix. See? So I mix it up a little bit. You see it dissolves instantly.
It's like making Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
Oh, Kool-Aid wine.
Now this is from France. This is the champagne yeast. I added a little bit to the wine. You see, you don't have to worry about what is right and what's wrong, because the yeast is gonna multiply. Doesn't matter how little you put inside, it starts to multiply.
Right. So the yeast duplicates itself in the process with the sugar. So whether you put a lot of yeast or a little yeast.
Actually, it's recommended not so much yeast, because what's going to happen is after the fermentation process is over, the dead yeast is going to end up on the bottom of your bottle. So we pour it in here from a carafe into the bottle. So you have to have a steady hand.
We didn't do a lot of mixing. We just lightly blended it. Enough so that.
And then maybe if you want, you give it a shake to make sure it's nicely distributed.
Great.
So now it's the stopper. It's called stopper. Yeah, it's a stopper.
It's a stopper, yeah.
It's a stopper because it stops.
Right.
Right.
It's a rubber.
It stops the airlock to fall through. You see. Now what I have to do on the airlock or the water lock, depends how who you're talking to. The principle is like this. You see, I put some water inside, and you see here the water level, and this is a floater. So if now air comes from underneath, it lifts up the floater, and the air can escape, and then the floater falls back into the water, preventing the air from the outside, and the fruit flies and all the other bad guys to get into your wine. Yeah.
Okay.
So now you just add it here on the top.
That's it for today. We're going to let it sit for 4 or 5 days. Let the yeast tell us when it's done its job, when it's dead. And then we'll come back and show you how to basically siphon out the clear wine, separating it from the dead yeast at the bottom, and then voila, you have a
Then we prost or chante or whatever. Enjoy.
All right, well, aloha from Hawaii.